Brandon Aiyuk to Washington, and the script was already written back in Arizona State, but there was a conversation that lasted way shorter than anyone expected, a first-round pick that still hasn't moved, and a question that The Athletic put out loud that nobody in the DMV wants to answer. Is this man even sure he wants to play in 2026? That is story one. And while that bomb is still floating in the air, Adam Peters has another crack open on the offensive line, the quietest one, the most dangerous one, the position that can blow up an entire Jaden Daniels season before it even starts. Ethan Posich is available. He has the resume. He has the track record. But he is coming in with a torn Achilles and a clock that does not forgive. The question is not whether he can play. The question is whether he shows up in time to learn the language Daniels needs to read from the very first snap of training camp. And just when you think you have processed all of that, there is a story happening right now in Ashburn that nobody in the DMV saw coming like this. A player who left, who grew somewhere else, who came back with something different, and his return could reshape the entire map of this offense in ways the free agent market is simply not going to give you. All of that is in this video. If you trust Adam Peters and the process, hit that like button right now and subscribe to the Real Commander Nation. Raise hail. Look, I'm going to keep it real with y'all from the jump. Brandon Aiyuk to the Commanders is the story. We all want to have a happy ending. An elite wide receiver with first-round route running ability who already knows Adam Peters from their time in San Francisco, who played with Jaden Daniels at Arizona State. The script is already written. The problem is nobody's following that script yet. Here's what we know. At the annual NFL owners meeting, Kyle Shanahan and Adam Peters linked up. They're friends, they're former colleagues. And yeah, the topic of Aiyuk definitely came up, but according to Matt Barrows and Vic Tafur over at The Athletic, that conversation didn't last nearly as long as you'd think. Period. That says everything. Why? Because this is not a problem of personal connection between Peters and Shanahan. This is a problem of price and of contradictory signals. The 49ers have all the leverage in the world here. When Aiyuk walked away from the team after his knee injury and stopped following the rehabilitation protocol, San Francisco triggered the clauses in his contract and voided his guarantees. Plain and simple, they don't owe him anything anymore. The Niners are not in a rush. They're not giving away a talent of his caliber without getting serious compensation in return. And Washington still hasn't sent over a draft pick. And here is where the story gets really interesting, bro. The Athletic asked the question nobody wanted to say out loud. Is Aiyuk even sure he wants to play in 2026? Because this man ghosted his team. He cut off all contact. He didn't follow through on his rehab the way he was supposed to. That is not the behavior of someone desperate to get back on the field. Now let's break down the tactical logic of this for Washington. The Commanders finished the 2025 season with a real urgent need at the WR2 spot opposite Terry McLaurin. The spacing in Jaden Daniels' offense depends on having a second receiver that elite corners have to genuinely respect and account for. Without that weapon, defenses are going to keep stacking resources toward McLaurin and squeezing the intermediate reads that Daniels processes so naturally. Aiyuk, at his best, is exactly that receiver. He's a sophisticated route runner. He uses his body to create position against coverage, and he has the ability to make contested catches in clutch third down situations. In the system Washington has been building, that profile is pure gold, and the fact that he already has personal chemistry with Daniels going back to their days at Arizona State is not a small detail. That accelerates the process of route synchronization in a way that matters on game day. But here's my real problem, and keep it a buck. If Aiyuk has not shown that he wants to be on an NFL field, if he hasn't shown serious commitment to his recovery, what guarantees that mindset changes the moment he crosses the Potomac? A first-round pick for a receiver with question marks about his motivation and health is a massive gamble. Adam Peters did not get to where he is by making careless gambles. Look, I could be wrong on this. Maybe Aiyuk is putting in work in private, and all of this is just noise. But until that man picks up the phone, reports back to his team, and shows that his head is truly in the game, Washington is absolutely right to be cautious. The fit is perfect on paper. The risk is very real in practice. My read on this, Adam Peters is waiting for Aiyuk to make the first move. If that receiver proves he wants to play ball, Peters is going in fast. If not, there are other ways to solve the WR2 problem and save those picks for the draft. The most underrated spot in all of football and the one that hurts the most when you don't have it covered. The Commanders currently have Nick Allegretti projected as the starting center. Allegretti played just 260 snaps in 2025. In a year where Jaden Daniels is going to carry even more offensive responsibility, putting an unstable piece at the axis of the offensive line is a recipe for chaos. That's where Ethan Pocic comes in, 30 years old, 10 seasons of NFL experience, 97 career starts. In 2025, he played 826 snaps for Cleveland, allowed only 2 sacks, and gave up 14 pressures. Those are solid numbers for a center operating in a problematic Browns offensive line. The issue is the elephant in the room. Pocic is coming off an Achilles injury from late 2025. He's projected to be ready around August of 2026. That's exactly when training camp opens in Ashburn. You're arriving just in time with no margin for error, no real window to integrate with the unit, and here's the tactical analysis that matters. The center is not just the man who snaps the ball, he is the director of the entire offensive line. He's the one who identifies defensive stunts pre-snap, who activates the blitz protections, who gives the visual signal to the guard, and tackle about who has interior pressure responsibility. In Washington's system, where Daniels relies heavily on pre-snap reads and RPO timing, having a center who can process those protections instantly is critical. You cannot arrive in August expecting to learn that language from scratch. Now, the optimistic view, if Pocic arrives healthy in August, if his Achilles recovery goes well, if Peters signs him to a $4 to $6 million deal with performance incentives, which is exactly the kind of contract this organization handles with precision, he can be a legitimate upgrade over Allegretti. His experience, his ability to survive inside complex systems, and his track record of durability before the injury all speak in his favor. But fam, this is still a short-term solution. The Commanders' offensive line needs a structural long-term answer, and that inevitably runs through the draft. Pocic can buy time. He can stabilize the position so that Daniels is not making decisions under constant interior pressure. But by 2027, this conversation needs to look completely different. Peters knows that, and that's why if they do sign Pocic, it would not be the final answer. It would be the right move to not waste a Jaden Daniels season while the real long-term center is still on his way. This one hits different for me because Dyami Brown is exactly the kind of player that represents the identity of these new Commanders. Dyami left for Jacksonville. He signed with the Jaguars looking for more opportunity after a memorable playoff run where he matched Terry McLaurin for the most receptions on the team. In Jacksonville, he learned from Jacoby Myers, shared the field with Brian Thomas Jr., and watched how Trevor Lawrence processed the game. And even though a shoulder injury in Week 3 complicated his season, he came back to the DMV with more knowledge, more maturity, and in his own words, better than ever. Now, let's be technical about this. Dyami's profile as a vertical threat is still very much there. His ability to win downfield, to exploit the space behind zone coverages, to come down with the contested catch, that is not something you manufacture in the free agent market. It gets developed with time and with the right quarterback. Can he be the WR2 Washington needs? Honestly, as the ideal solution, probably not. But as a complement to McLaurin, as a deep threat who creates space in the intermediate zones for the tight end and for the running game, Dyami brings real value to this offense. And there's something else we can't ignore. New offensive coordinator David Blau changes the context entirely. Blau wants a more balanced, more structured attack for a receiver like Dyami, who has more tools than he's ever been able to fully show inside a consistent system. That clarity of role could be the difference between sitting at the bottom of the roster and being a regular contributor on game days. Dyami Brown is not the answer to the WR2 problem, but his return is the right story to close out this video because it's the story of a player who loved his team enough to come back, who grew somewhere else and brought all of that growth back home to Ashburn. And in the burgundy and gold, that kind of energy matters. So there you have it, fam. A star receiver wrapped in drama and doubt, a veteran center who can protect Daniels while the real long-term solution gets found, and a prodigal son coming home with more hunger than ever. 3 stories that tell us Adam Peters is playing chess while everybody else is playing checkers. This offseason is not over, and I am here every single day to bring you every move as it happens. If this analysis fired something up inside you, fam, hit that like button right now. That one simple move helps us reach more Commanders fans all across the DMV and beyond. Drop your comment below. Do you pull the trigger on Aiyuk even with the risk? Or do you trust Peters to find another solution? I need to know what the family thinks. Raise hail, Washington.